and welcome back to the Reapers. Today we're in our beloved Mi-8 and we're looking at navigation. Now you'd have to bear with us as we go. These tutorials are slowly getting more complicated, and this is probably the most complicated thing we've done so far. So let's try and describe what we're doing today. So in our Mi-8 we've got three different types of navigation. We've got the first is an ADF, automatic direction finding system, known as the ARC-9. This works in a band of radio 150 kHz to 1290 kHz. This is used for general, medium to long, well, up to long range navigation, and it works by homing in to NDBs, non-directional beacons. Non-directional beacon is a transmitter that's placed somewhere on the planet, basically, constantly transmitting in omnidirection radio signals with information coded into them. And what you do basically is you tune in to that particular NDB, and you get, it's a one-way system, it's a passive system only. You do not handshake with an NDB, and so you can get a azimuth to that NDB, but you cannot get a range to that NDB. So it's used for general navigation. I should say at this point it can also be used for approaches. So if I'm looking at this airbase here where we are, we've got an NDB there. That house is an NDB station, and we can see it's at 395 kilohertz, codename X-Ray Charlie. We'll go around talk about the codename later and why it's used. Just to say, at this point we can navigate to that NDB station there, and some airbases have two NDBs on the approach. So you could have what we would call this one an inner NDB. It's about a mile away from the threshold of the runway. You could also have an outer NDB, which would be roughly where my cursor is there, about 2 miles away from the threshold. And in that case, in bad visibility conditions, you could navigate to outer NDB, then inner NDB, and then you would, by virtue of that, you could calculate exactly where the end of the runway is. So you could use it as a kind of approach ILS system. But we're not going to be doing that because that's basically a pain in the butt to do. We're just going to do general navigation to this particular NDB here to show that you can do it. That's ARC-9. Next, we're going to go to ARC-UD. ARC-UD is a little different. We can use it in 3 modes. Mode number 1 is preset mode. It has 6 presets that are programmed into it as standard, and these presets cannot be changed. What we can say is that these presets are in the VHF band in the AM modulation, and preset 3 is the one we're interested in. It is programmed to 114.583 megahertz. Now the example we're going to be using is we've got some guys out here 10 miles out, and they are some Abrams that are in trouble, and they are transmitting on 114.583. That's same as that preset 3 on a modulation of AM on a power of 50 watts. So that's that. The second mode of ARC-UD is guard. How do I explain that? So all air forces basically have a emergency channel that they can switch to that's constantly monitored. Anyone can tune into basically if they're in trouble. So that guard, now just as an example to this wouldn't be a way of using guard, but we can just in fact this is a way we could use guard. We've got an Abrams here that's in trouble again, and he's transmitting on guard. So we're going to use that to try and locate this Abrams who's transmitted, and our guard's going to be 243, and we'll look in the AM modulation as that's UHF. Sorry, 243 is UHF. Guard's always in UHF. So we're going to go through that once we're in the cockpit. The third mode of ARC-UD is using the P828 radio, which is the FM modulation radio in the VHF band in the Mi-8. This spans from approximately 20 megahertz to 60 megahertz FM. And we've got another example here. I should also say this works in presets. And now we can change the presets for this. If we click on our helicopter, go to presets, we've got the R828 FM radio here, and we've set preset 5 to 30 megahertz FM. And as usual, we've got our stranded Abrams out here who are transmitting on FM 50 watts, 30 megahertz. Okay, so we're going to use that to go and find him. So that's that. If you're lost already, then good luck, because it gets more complicated after that. We've got then the third type of navigation, the DIS-15. This is a Doppler radar. Would you like to give that a quick briefing, Stahl?
The Doppler system basically works by emitting microwaves down from the tail of the helicopter. and it bounces those back off the ground up to an altitude of about 3,000 meters, although it also depends on the terrain, and if you're hovering it gets less than that. And it can use that to measure its current ground speed, and from the ground speed it can then infer where it currently is on the map.
Roger, so we're going to use that for general navigation. We'll do the ARC-9 first, then the ARC-UD, then the DIS-15. Right, stand by as we get into our cockpit. Right, welcome back to the cockpit. So first we're going to show our ARC-9 homing into an NDB station about a mile in that direction, just because it's easiest. So let's get going. First thing is we need our fan on. This is always the most important thing. Fan. Next we're going to change our master listen mode to ARC-9 up here. Make sure that we're on radio here and not ICS. Next, we are going to look at our HS. Hello, Charlotte. Look at our HSI here. We get medium wave or VHF. The ARC-9 works in medium wave, so make sure that's selected in medium wave. Next, we're going to hop over to the co-pilot seat. And here is the ARC-9 panel. Now, you'll notice that there are two frequency selectors. Now, this is good. I like all aircraft with two frequency selectors. You can use one as a main and one as a backup, but more importantly, you can use them to pre-select two channels. Now, you notice I talked earlier about using an inner and an outer NDB for an approach. You can have an inner NDB there and an outer NDB there, or the other way around, pre-selected, and then you can change between the two with this switch here. So that you can do a full ILS approach, essentially, with this ARC-9 system. Very good stuff. Anyway, let's carry on. We've got our main master control here, and we're going to turn it to compass. Compass is what we're interested in. Our volume control here. In fact, that's just too noisy, so it'll have to wait. We've got our volume needle here, and we want that fully round to the right. Next, we're going to pre-tune in to 395. Now, you notice I can't see the last digit there, so I'm going to hop over to the engineer seat with the 3 key. Okay. Next, we're going to move around until we get to our frequency. It was 395 kilohertz. So let's go 395 kilohertz. So we want to find 90 with this knob here. And this knob here, if I can get hold of it. It does the big digits. And then the last digit is, and I should say left and mouse click is what I've been doing so far. The last digit is done with the tuner. So we'll need to go compass on at this point. And we're going to rotate this with the mouse wheel, if you can hear me. And we've got a station. Just on 5, which is good. And you can see our signal strength meter has gone from 0 up to full. We're picking up a full signal NDB, and I bloody hope so, because we're right next to it. The next thing we need to do is listen to the Morse code that it's transmitting. Remember I said there was coded messages on the radio signal? They will display in Morse code. Now, the Morse code for X-Ray Charlie, which was the code name for that NDB, is dash, dot, dot, dash, space, dash, dot, dash, dot. So we've got to listen now and record what it's going to tell us. So just listen carefully. It gave us dash, dot, dot, dash, dash, dot, dash, dot. And that is exactly what we were expecting of that NDB for X-Ray Charlie. That is how we confirm that we've got to the right NDB. Now, it's important we do that because it's very easy to tune into the wrong NDB station. You could have one that's 39 kilohertz there, and you could have one over here that's 394 kilohertz. That kind of thing happens. And so we have to use the Morse code to confirm we're on the right NDB. So we're on the right NDB. Now, if we go back to pilot, and we could use the pilot or the co-pilot HSI for this. We can use the pilot. We can see that our radio compass needle is pointing to this direction here. So all we've got to do is follow it. So stand by as I get my controls set up. Okay, Charles, I'm heading off. Now, radio compass needles are notoriously inaccurate is the wrong word, but what's a good word for them, Charles? Jumpy?
A little bit bouncy if the signal strength is not good.
Yeah, also the roll of your helicopter can upset them. So what you'll find is you just need to settle down, and eventually that needle will settle down. It takes a little bit of getting used to. So we're going to follow that needle. We want to get it in the 12 o'clock position. Now remember, we don't have any range information because we don't have handshake ability. So it will just give us direction. Now it's bouncing about a bit. We're getting disturbances in the radio signal. Maybe there's a tree in the way or a conflicting signal. We just have to accept there are things that will upset that compass needle. Now, the only way of knowing once we've got to that station is that that needle will turn around and turn backwards. That is because we are passing over the NDB station, and it goes, and the needle then becomes behind us. I'm getting the feeling it's going to be this building here, but we'll see. That looks like an inner NDB, so we're probably is going to be that. So what we're probably going to find is that needle is going to change once we get over that to be behind us, but we'll see. You learn to tell the difference between that and just random fluctuations in the needle, like we're getting there, you saw. Can be a little bit finicky. So I'm going over what I think is probably the NDB station there, and what we can see is probably that the needle is going to change to turn behind us. And there it goes. We've gone over the top of it, and the needle's turned to be behind us. That's how we know we've got to the NDB station. So that is pretty much it. The only other thing to point out is that in some aircraft, possibly not this aircraft, but just for general NDB navigation, an inner and an outer beacon are transmitting a vertical signal so that when you go over them, it will give you a signal up here. I don't think the Mi-8 has got that function, but it's just a bit of general knowledge I like to put in. That's it. So that's it really. What I'm going to go and do is land now, turn off my ARC-9, and we'll go on to the ARC-UD. Is there anything else you want to point out on the ARC-9? How about signal range? These things are pretty long range, so pretty much they are bound by line of sight, so the curvature of the Earth and mountains and stuff like that. So about 100 miles is the most you can generally get out of them if you're flying very high. Anything else you want to add to that, Stahl?
Yeah, the highest the manual mentions, I believe, is 55 kilometers. Oh no, actually, this is the RPD, my bad.
Yeah, I mean, in aeroplanes, they seem to work. As long as they've got a high enough wattage, I've used them up to about 100 miles. After that, you just can't get round the curvature of the Earth, basically, due to, I don't know, reasons I don't really understand. Right, anyway, we're going to land, and then we're going to show you the ARC-UD. Stand by. Oh, I'm good at landing now, Star.
Yes.
So that was the ARC-9. Now let's look at the ARC-UD, and the first mode of the ARC-UD, the preset mode. So let's look at our master listener mode, move it round with right click to ARC-UD. Next we're going to change our radio compass mode from medium wave to VHF, because this system works on VHF. Next we're going to go to the co-pilot seat. We're going to do the most important thing for the co-pilot, which is to put his fan on. Nice cool air. Next we're going to go to the ARC-UD channel, and let's go through what we've got. A switch for sensitivity. You know, it's pretty obvious. You want more sensitivity or less sensitivity for the panel. In our experimentation, it doesn't really matter what which you use so far. Next, selector between MW or DW. MW is to use the channels. DW is to not use the channels. We're going to use the channels in the first mode. You got your volume control. Let's just turn up to maximum. For now, you've got your mode selector off, narrow, wide, pulse, RC. Off is off. Narrow searches in a narrow field of view. Is that the right thing to say, Stahl?
I'm not entirely sure what the technical details are, but it's got a bit more range and it's a bit less accurate than wide.
Roger. So basically, for long range, narrow is best. For close range, wide is best. And do we care about pulse and RC?
RC is not implemented, and pulse usually not really, no. Right,
we're going for long range, so we're going for narrow. And next we've got our channels. Now, if you remember back to our briefing, channel 3 is sector 114.583 megahertz AM modulation, which is the same as what our M1 Abrams are transmitting somewhere in that direction. So we're going to go channel 2, channel 3, and you can see we've picked up a signal. As well as that, you can hear what they're transmitting. They are transmitting that splat.wave file. I don't know why, that's just the first one I came to. So that's that. I'm going to turn the volume down a bit so that it doesn't drive us nuts. So that confirms that we are onto their station. Next, we're going to... Oh, I should say that the co-pilot cannot use the ARC-UD needle. That does not work. So for the ARC-UD radio needle, we need to go over to the pilot. And we can see it works. It's telling us to go that direction, basically, and we're going to follow it. Again, we're not going to get any range because this is a one-way passive system. It will just give us direction. Before we take off, anything you want to add to that, Charles?
I do.
Right, off we go. Let's go and find our first distressed Abrams of the day. Right, where's my boys? Right, the needle is a lot more stable. That's the first thing I note than the ARC-9. It may be because we were so close to that ARC-9 station. That ARC-9 station is very powerful compared to what we're looking at here. Or it may be something different. I don't really know. It would be useful if we had a signal strength meter for this, Charles. That would be able to give us a rough distance to the Abrams, wouldn't it? To the signal set source.
I don't think it's quite as easy because it depends on the signal strength in the first place, how far it is away, on weather conditions, on how much terrain is in the way. There's too many factors, I think, to really accurately.
If you knew he was 10 watts, okay, fine. But if you knew he was 10 watts, then you could. I've been doing a lot of RWR videos lately, and looking at the difference in different radio signals and calculating you can kind of roughly calculate the distance if you know the wattage output of the radio. Anyway, stop that nonsense. Well, it says they're over here, and I can't see them. Can you see them, Charles?
I'm a little behind, but I'm catching up.
Well, it's saying that they're somewhere here in front of us. I just can't see them because of my old man eyes. My old man cancery eyes.
Charles got eyes on some vehicles right on the coast.
Hey, there they are. It worked. It worked. Beautiful. What I'm going to do is fly over them just to show if I couldn't see them, because if they were hidden by fog or something, then I would know where they were because of the needle spinning around, just like the ARC-9. Ready? Watch this. Get ready for needle spinach. Yeah, the needle's very stable with these guys. Needle spin. And there we go. Right, I'm going to put myself down, and we're going to look at the next mode of the ARC-UD. Just stand by as I try and avoid VRS, which is a black widow of this thing. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Be nice. And push down. Right. So that is that. Next, we're going to change to our next mode, which is basically looking on the active guard channel. So let me jump over here. And all we've got to do for this is change from preset to guard. Now, it's automatically searching guard now, and it's already found the signal. We're going to jump back to the pilot seat, and we can see that this needle is now pointing us to a guy over here who is an Abrams 4 miles over here who's transmitting on guard 243 on UHF ultra high frequency. So what we're going to do now is take off and go and find him. See you later, boys. Right, following the needle still, and there he is. That is our tank transmitting on UHF guard 243, and we've guided to him. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go and put the bird down next to him, and then we're going to use the third type of ARC-UD. Standby. Right, so we're down. Not too close, please, Star. Next, we want to go through just an option that we've got here. Star might want to talk through it. VHF ADF interlock. Do you want to go through that quickly?
Yeah, basically it just tries to eliminate interference of the radio with the ARC-UD system. So I'm not sure if it's actually properly implemented in DCS, but it can't hurt to turn it on. So
the third mode is we want to override the system with the R828, the FM modulation radio. So we're going to leave master listener mode in ARC-UD. We're going to go to our 828 down here. We're going to override by changing this from COM to compass. And you can see we're no longer tuned into any station. We're now overriding with the 828. We're now going to change to our preset, which is, just looking in my notes,
30 megahertz, I think it was, channel 5.
Yep, channel 5, 30 megahertz. Turn the volume up. Hold the tune button. And we're tuned in. We've got our third tanks, which are somewhere over there to the coast, I think, who are transmitting on 30 FM. Let's go back to our radio compass. And we can see that the VHF band radio needle is now pointing to our 3 o'clock. So let's get on with it, Stahl. Let's go and find our third guys. Chasing you.
Catch me.
You're going backwards all the way, Stahl.
Well, if you tell me where to go, I can't see shit.
Oh, right. Yes, exactly when you're 6 o'clock, I'll overtake.
Okay. That's fine, just keep going at speed, I'll find information.
That's funny. It's only about half a mile anyway. We got them skills. Right, I'm going to go and look for this tank. Where are you, Mr. Tank? Where are you, Mr. 30 megahertz tank? I can't see him, Charles. I literally can't see him anywhere. Have we made a mistake? Have we? There he is! 30 megahertz FM tanks. There they are. And go over it, watch that needle spin. And super spin. Beautiful stuff. Right, that is the 3 modes of the ARC-UD. Anything you want to add to ARC-UD, Stahl?
Negative, I think we covered it all.
Lovely. Right, next we're going to go land back at base and look at the Doppler navigation system. Right, so we're back, we've turned our radios off, and now we're going to look at Doppler microwave nav. So first of all, I'm going to jump to my co-pilot seat. I see a box hanging off the rear boom of the chopper. Explain that, Stahl.
That rear boom is basically a microwave. It is a magnetron and a microwave detector that sends down microwaves towards the ground and then measures the return. It can thus determine the ground speed and the direction you're currently moving.
Roger. Right, next we're going to look at our instrumentation. So first we've got 2 instruments that we're going to be driving this thing from the co-pilot seat. 2 instruments on this dash that we're interested in, really. We've got this drift angle gauge here that's going to be driven by the system. We've got the drift angle, obviously, which is like a slippage. It's like a slip gauge, isn't it? What I would call a slip gauge.
Yeah, basically, it just shows you which direction your helicopter is moving towards in relation to its nose.
Roger, we've got ground speed here. Now, that's different to our normal speedo, which is indicated airspeed. This is ground speed. Modes on the left, we've got test and we've got operation. Oh, sorry, we need to turn this thing on first. So up here to the right, we've got Doppler on, and we also want our 5.5 volt Doppler lights on. Okay, let's try that again. So down to our slippage gauge again, we've got test and operational. We can go to test there, which just tests it, and back to operational. There we go. We've got land and sea modes. We're going to be going over land to begin with, and then over the sea. So over the sea, we're going to turn it to sea, obviously. We've got our green light. Do you want to describe the green light, Star?
The green light tells you whether you're currently operational or in memory mode. So if you are flying either too high, or over ocean, particularly at a sea state that is higher than 1 or 2, at a roll angle that's over 30 degrees or a pitch angle that's over 7 degrees, your magnetron or your sensor just can't measure what you're currently doing, so it's just going to freeze everything. It's going to memorize where you were lost, and then it's going to continue operation once it actually knows what you're doing again. Roger,
so what we're probably going to find is we probably are going to get that light on a few times, and when that's happening, that is going to cause some inaccuracy in our system. And we kind of want to show that on purpose, because that helps us explain why the system might go wrong. Next, our main Doppler panel. This is basically how do we explain this? This is going to show our deviation from the course line that we're going to set. We'll go over that a bit more when we're flying. It's basically left and right, and this is many kilometers. Here is going to be our flight path, that in our kilometers. That is our distance, essentially, to or from the navigation point that we're going to set. Here is our map angle. We'll go through that. And yes,
either to the navigation point or from your starting point, depending on which approach you take.
Roger, we'll talk about that in a bit. Map angle here in heading, basically in true degrees, which we'll go through in a bit, and an on and off button. Next, behind us, we've got our master mode here in the back here. We're in operational or various types of test modes. Anything else you want to speak about that, other than to say when you're on a test mode, your green light, so the system is not functioning at that point?
Yeah, also, I mean, if you want to quickly show it and just turn it to memory, you'll see that, first of all, counter will come on. This is kind of a translation error, it should say check. M would be a magnetron failure, B would be a computing system failure, and if you look at your dash again, you also see a little orange Doppler fail light, which is obviously going to indicate an error in the Doppler system.
Roger. Okay, back to operational. And here is a rheostat for our backlight. So the instruments that are relevant to this system can be backlit with the 5.5 volt lights, but you won't see it in the lights here because it's too light. You'll only see it at night. Right. Anything else before we go and set a course, Stahl?
I don't think so.
Right, so next we're going to go and choose a course. We're going to go to the map here. We are going to draw a course from us, our helicopter there, out to some guys. We've got some tanks out here. And what we can say is, if we look at the top of the screen, that is 296 degrees heading on 4.22 nautical miles. So the first thing we want to do is convert that into metric. So that's 7.8 kilometers we've got to go, heading 296. Now, this map gives us a true heading of 296. We are in the Caucasus, and our aircraft works on a magnetic heading. That is a 6 degrees deviation. So what we actually want to do is take 296 minus 6 degrees gives us 290. So don't forget that. A deviation there. So we're going to head to 290. Now, once we're back in the chopper, we can actually convert this chopper to work from magnetic heading to a true heading, but we don't know how to get it to work. Basically, it's using this panel up here. Do you want to describe your problem with this panel, Charles, quickly?
Yeah, sure. So basically, this is your magnetic compass panel. You can input a latitude in the middle, which allows the helicopter to basically know what magnetic declination it should correct for. On the top left, you have your north-south hemisphere switch. In the bottom left, that is just a test switch. You can set your HSI either to 0 or 300. Now, personally, what I've found, if I do that, I will need to correct with the course corrector knob on the bottom right to actually get back from that again. And after I do that, the magnetic declination correction on my HSI will be gone, and it will just show me magnetic north instead. In the top right, you have the master mode, by the way, which is on the left magnetic compass, which you would also use to realign this thing if it drifts, because it can drift at about 3 degrees per hour. In the center you have GC, which is gyro compass or gyro magnetic compass, and on the right is astro compass, which is not implemented.
Roger. Okay. So we've done our conversion, and now we need to punch in our numbers. So we're going to stick to magnetic north at the moment. So drift angle, that's passive only. That's going to tell us things. Our flight path is our distance. We can either leave it at 0, where it is, and it will count upwards. And then we have to we know we're over the target when it reads 7.8 kilometers. Or we can go aft here and set it to 7.8 kilometers, and then it will count down. And we know when we're over our target because it will read 0. Right, so we're going to go 7.8. So these are the singles here. You've got 10s and 100s. 7.8. So 1 notch over 8. Each of these notches is 200 meters. Have you got 1 notch over 8, Charles? That's right, isn't it?
Affirm.
Affirm. Now we need to set the map angle, which is our corrected magnetic angle of 290. I'm going to go aft. I'm going to count down and go backwards. A little bit finicky. There we go, 290. Turn the system on, enabled. Right, so just a recap. This is going to tell us our actual slip angle. This is going to tell us our ground speed. This is going to tell us our deviation from the course line that we've selected. This is going to do our countdown until we get to the target, and this is just our setting. Okay, Stahl, I'm just going to turn my takeoff parameters, put my takeoff parameters on. As we take off, would you like to describe roughly how this system is actually working in the background?
Yeah, it uses microwaves, bounces them off the ground, and measures your current altitude, your direction, as well as your ground speed. And it does calculates how far off you are and where exactly you are in relation to the track that you originally set.
Roger that. I just completely forgot to set my course line, my bad, so I'm just putting my bird down. Stand by. Steady cap.
But it is important to note that it does not like rough seas, so sea states above 1 or 2, generally speaking, it can't measure properly. Roll angles above 30 degrees, pitch above 7. Have you mentioned all that?
No, but it's fine, as long as we know that, so no rough seas. Right, I completely forgot to say, we've got to set our course line on HSI. Left mouse scroll wheel, set it to 290, which is there. So this is what we're going to follow, and then this is going to tell us what we're deviating from our actual path. So we're going to try that again. Right, supercap is take off. And this system, the microwave points downwards, directly plumb downwards, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's in the tail, the little box that's sticking out.
Right. So we're going to use our HSI here. We're going to align it with the 12 o'clock position. That's going to get us on our rough location, if I can get it to work. So we're going to use that to get us on a rough location, and we're going to fine tune with this system here. Also with it's going to tell us our distance. Now, we're on land mode at the moment. As soon as we get feet wet, we're going to change to sea mode. Let me just... And what we don't want to see is any green P here. If we've got a green P here, then the system essentially turns itself off and we get error. So we're going to try and avoid P. We probably will get it at some point because we're over the sea. It doesn't appear to like the sea very much.
P basically just means memory mode, so it'll just freeze the current operation and it'll resume once it actually receives information.
Roger, I've changed to C mode there. Right, so let's get going. I'm just going to sort my controls out and set my trim out. Okay, that feels a little bit more comfortable. So it's telling us, it's counting down here to 0, and it says our deviation here. Now it's saying we're deviated left from the course line ever so slightly, literally about 50 meters. In fact, to view that better, why don't I purposefully go off course? Stand by. Right, yeah, we've gone off course. It's saying we're to the right now by 200 meters. So I'm going to head left a little bit. I'm now off course right by 300 meters. I'm now closing in. I'm still off to the right. Need to lose a little bit of altitude, I reckon. I'm now getting centered again. I'm almost centered. I'm now centered on that line. Now I'm slightly left, so I'm going to start heading back a bit. So I'm using my course line here on the HSI for a rough guide and here for my actual corrections. I'm now left by 100 meters. I've got 3 kilometers to go. I'm going to start slowing down. So there's a lot of things I'm balancing here. I'm still left by 100 meters. I'm balancing flying with the chopper and working on this. I'm going to be zooming in and out all the time like this. Slowing down. We haven't seen any green peas yet. We had a practice and we got lots of green peas. So we should be fairly accurate. I'm now left by 50 meters. So I'm going to go to the right here slightly. I've got 1.5 kilometers to go. I'm now bang on 0 and bang on heading. I'm now 1 kilometer. I wonder if our distance conversion was slightly wrong, Scott. Did you just type it into Google?
Yeah, 4.22 told me it's 7.81 kilometers.
I've got 600 meters to go. There's our target there. Let's see how accurate we get. Oh, I'm off to the right, 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 I'm off to the right. And that's it there. I'm going to pause it, Charles. I know it's going to crash you, but I'm going to pause it there. Right, so we are, another 20 meters basically. So it's got our altitude, length basically, exactly right. There's me flying over the tank, so it's got that within a couple of 20 meters. And we're ever so slightly to the right. It says we're 50 meters to the right, so we should have been left slightly. So it's basically taken me perfectly to that left tank. Was yours pretty much on target as well?
Yep, I'm on your 7 o'clock high.
Out of interest, I've banked left at this point and I've now got a P, so I've started to introduce inaccuracy to the system at this point. In fact, we could even say this is a really hard system to use, isn't it, Charles? Doing this without going into memory mode is going to be really difficult if you're going over the rough terrain and stuff like that. So
just fly gently.
Just fly gently. There you go. Well, it works. It's done. I could have done that in the night, basically, with no visibility, and I could have got to these tanks. Anything you want to add to this system, Charles?
Nope.
Lovely. Right, I hope that helps with all those navigation modes. Get your Mi-8, learn, and start navigating to stuff. I hope that helps, and I'll see you later.